Hello everyone! So, this time we are going to be talking about the Refinery Priority Tier List update. Before we start, I do want to point out one thing. Yes, the GHB Tempest Trial Unit tier list is yet to be updated. I am not planning on updating this right now. I'm going to be waiting until we have the new new Tempest Trial Unit that's coming soon. Why? Well, it's quite simple. We're getting a Tempest Trial Unit in literally 2 days or 3, depending on the time this video goes up. So yeah, there's no point in me updating a tier list and then having to update it literally a day after. As for the build for the GHB present on this video, those will also be explored on the GHB Tempest Trial tier list update. Otherwise, let's move on. So, okay. Before we start, I do want to point out one thing. I did change 2 characters. I changed Micahlis from B to A and Nephenee from B to A+. Yes, the main problem Nephenee was running into was the fact that, well, the speed didn't really help. Yes, sometimes she would get a follow-up, but the follow-up was largely useless if what she was fighting against was a bold fighter user. Black Luna would be able to literally pierce through her and break her into, which completely trivialized the fact that she got 4 speed and 4 death. Let alone blue character that could proc Gale force and so on. So, alright, that changed. What changed? One skill was added to the game. Steady stands for. Boy oh boy, steady stands for. And this is the same skill that made Micahlis go up. To put it simply, now you can literally block Black Luna from happening for all but one set. Obviously being the Quicken Pulse, Slaying Edge, Ostia Pulse combo. But if you take this kind of set out of the equation, you can basically block Nephenee from being, you know, Black Luna'd. Unless, actually, no. If you are fighting a Slaying Edge that gets Quicken Pulse or Ostia Pulse, with Bold Fighter they actually get the proc off. This can be dangerous, but the fact that you have Steady Stance 4 mean, well, Zelga should be doing 0 times 2 anyway, so even with the proc, you should be able to live. So, yeah. It's a really good A slot, and it combos wonderfully with her special weapon. Can also combo really well with Attack Death Bond. So Nephenee is in a lot better shape, to a point where she doesn't want to have just speed plus 3. Instead, you can make her a exclusively enemy phased unit, which is way better than where she was before. As for Micahlis, it's basically the same concept, except it's a bit more technical here. The character I was comparing Micahlis a lot to was Beruka. Gee, I wonder why. It's almost like they're very similar. The problem is, since he was not exactly able to prevent doubling, to prevent himself from being doubled, the fact that he could get an extra 10 damage on proc didn't mean shit. Because at the end of the day, you were going to get hit twice. Moonbow was not gonna do enough damage unless you're dealing with a blue or a green. You're dealing with a red, it's basically hitting for peanuts. It doesn't help. So at the end of the day, it really didn't do anything for him. However, now with Steady Stance 4, you can actually run Bonfire and do enough damage, because you have more attack than Beruka to begin with. Bonfire will do enough damage, especially if you combo Steady Stance 4 with Darting Stance 3. You'll be sitting about 34 speed, which is not too bad. That's considering a +5 Micahlis. 34 speed is not bad. If you have own flyers, you're hitting 40 speed. Obviously on merge that's 38. Moving on, if you have goats, you can block a lot of double, and just like Nephenee, the main problem with tanking is specials. Obviously, you won't be tanking Zelgus because it's fucking Zelgus and you're fucking green. That's literally a recipe for death in a lot of cases. But you can actually safely tank him once or twice. That said, at the end of the day, with Bonfire and the Nameless Refine, I'm gonna just call it like this, you can actually do a good chunk of damage on BK and possibly even kill him, or Zelgus, whichever. It's really interchangeable at this point. And yeah, Steady Stance 4 is just a godsend for both of them, and actually allow them to function as what they should be. And also, it makes Micahlis a bit more interesting as a unit, because since you already have enough defense as is, your attack becomes more prevalent than your defense. And when it comes down to attack, Micahlis is actually superior to Veruca in every way, shape, or form. So the fact that their def is already at a point where you're above 50 means that the fact that there's a gap of like 5+ attack and a 16 might weapon really gives a huge advantage for Micahlis down the line. So I wanted to point that out before I would move on, but now let's actually talk about those new units, shall we? First up is Navarre. Now, I did not expect him to be good, and he certainly isn't bad. As sad as this is to say, if we're talking straight up Refine, like Refine alone, I would say he has the best Refine out of any Tempest Trial / GHB unit. And it's not a great Refine still. Yes, Zephiel is the one that's the most worth refining if you're planning on plus-10ing him. That is completely a fact. However, at the end of the day, what really carries Zephiel from being such a good, oppressive force is not his weapon refine, it's his base stat line. The fact that he has so much res, the fact that his refine kind of works with this, the fact that he can run close defense to combo into his distant def, so it's a straight 6 def res in both phase, that is what makes him good. Not his weapon refine though. His weapon refine is rather underwhelming, and at the end of the day, if he could have literally just Safeguard and Barrier Blade mixed into one, that would just be better straight up than anything he could have gotten as a prep. That's just a fact. Because it would literally just be his weapon, but +7. So yeah. However, Navarre's weapon is actually really good for him. To put it simply, this makes him an AoE buster. If you don't know what an AoE buster is, let me just explain to you how Ophelia works, and it should hopefully clear up what it means. The way Ophelia works is with Special Spiral. She has a cooldown -1 weapon, and she's considered a mage, so she starts with 2 charge left, unless you have Infantry Pulse, a mage, 2 Infantry Pulse, or more or less combination of both. You get the idea. So, you can start with your AoE ready. Navarre can do the same, he just needs Quicken Pulse as the seal. Or Infantry Pulse around him. Infantry Pulse is ideal, so you can actually run RD Bearing. Yes, RD Bearing has a use sometimes. This is the use, really. Though, obviously, Ophelia can run that as well. But the point is, in both of their cases, they run Special Spiral, proc AoEs on turn 1, and then it recharges itself again, so you can go again with said AoE safely. This is the kind of thing you can do with Navarre. And Navarre has a much less interesting stat line than Ophelia. The difference here is Ophelia is a different color, and is a mage, and is a 5-star. Yes, Ophelia is straight better than he is at the job, but that's a 5-star. Granted, she's on Hero Fast right now, so if you're able to spend, I'd say a +10 Ophelia is a great investment, and a better investment than +10ing Navarre. but it's still a pretty good refine. At the end of the day, you can still hit upward to 62 attack with Life and Death and Scarlet Sword at plus 10. If it's not plus 10, that's still 58 attack, and a Hardy Bearing completely blocks Vantage from fucking you over. It is still pretty solid overall, just not amazing, obviously. Do understand if you use an AoE set, it relies on your attack stat outside combat. This is why Life and Death is ideal for him and not Sturdy Blow, Death Blow, and so on, because those skills will not affect the damage output of your AoEs. So yeah, it's an A+ as a result. It is worth refining, just there is so many better sword units. Speaking of, let's talk about our new S tier, Ogma. Boy oh boy, Ogma is a monster. He already had an insane stat line. The higher you go in arena, the more incredible he performs, because the higher you go in arena, the less important your rest stat becomes. Obviously there's 3 characters that makes your rest stat important, namely Legendary Tiki, Halloween Myrrh, and Grima, of course. But once you hit Desperation, that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you can actually run Gale Force and proc it pretty consistently, and as a result, with Desperation, you can actually just poke, butcher, get the fuck out, and be safe. This is a pretty good weapon overall, and it's only reliant on flying or infantry ally within 2 space, which is extremely easy to work with. Especially if you combo this with stuff like drives. Since at the end of the day, say you have, I don't know, Marv as a buffer on your team with drive attack as the seal and drive speed as the C skill. That's 9 attack and 9 speed, so you're literally sitting on 60 attack and 43 speed without an A skill in mind, without merges in mind, without seal in mind, and without IVs in mind. Yeah, those stats climb to be very insane very quickly. It's quite ridiculous. You could also combo whatever this is with the new Robins, buffing +4 to all stats. That's also an option. At the end of the day, his key stats is his defense, his HP, so you can use Panic Ploy, since you'll be sitting at 50 health with this. Panic Ploy can work. As a plus 10, you're sitting at 54 HP, so that is a option to consider. However, if you're going to be doing this, you'll be more likely to be wanting to have a legendary unit buffing him up at the same time. Just for being more consistent to the point where you can actually Panic Ploy even characters such as Legendary Hector pretty consistently. Just thought I'd point that out. Now, when it comes down to IVs, you'll probably be wanting to get Speed Plus, as his attack is already good enough as is. After all, if you have an infantry within 2 space, you are sitting at 55 attack without an A slot in mind, without a seal slot in mind, without buffs in mind. 55 is already pretty solid, and at the end of the day, well, you can push that even higher pretty easily. Another character that is even better for him, because Marv is a sword just like him, so obviously it might be better to run a lance unit. Brave Lucina is fantastic. As a matter of fact, that's an extra 6 attack and speed straight up, which is even better for him in my opinion, because you can combo Garrus Kogel, drive attack, and drive speed. Or you could go Garrus Kogel and double drive attack, that's also a great option for him. Or 2 drive speed plus Garrus Kogel, you get the idea. Let's go with just 6/6 with speed plus. Yeah, it climbs pretty damn quick, doesn't it? 10 attack, 10 speed with just Garrus Kogel-chan over there. So with speed plus you're looking at 61 attack without active buffs, 61 attack, and 47 speed. needless to say, this is actually pretty good. You can combo this with many skills such as Gale Force, Moonbow because he has heavy blow, so you can just attack and proc it immediately. Glimmer is also a decent option. Though at the end of the day, I would say it's a bit tricky because then in Desperation you don't have the cooldown -1 to combo into it. I will say though, it's a straight, it's just another kick in the nuts to Brave Roy, who has been irrelevant for the past year. But yeah, at the end of the day, if you don't plan on using Desperation, I would say Wrath is a great option. Actually, a pretty good option because then you can just tank, proc, attack, def, Attack, def, bond is also a great option to combo into that kind of playstyle. It comes down to preference though. So, alright, let's move on to Robin. Let's start with the female one. So, I've been scratching my head around this. They changed the complete wording of Blaraven and Tactical Gale, and I was really confused for a moment because I was like, wait, does that mean it works differently with skill like Cancel Affinity? Or does it work differently against Colorless? Does it even work with TA? It works exactly like Blaraven. So I don't understand why they went from the very obvious and easy to understand Blaraven, which gives combat triangle advantage against Colorless, to this bunch of text that means basically the same thing. But here we are, I suppose. So, alright. Honestly, she's A+ out of pity more than anything. She's a bit better than Soren in the term of buffer. That's kind of all I can say that's positive here. If you're talking about a buffer, Titania will do you better because she buffs more than just owns. At the end of the day, the main problem she runs into is she buffs +4 in every stat in it as a tactic buff. And then you have Scold and Hudor, however the fuck you want to pronounce that, Piazura and Elysian Traveler Olivia's weapons, which buffs by 3 in all stats, regardless of team comp. So you're telling me this is what we have to work with here? Wow. You see, this feels very underwhelming. If I'm being completely honest, here's what I would have done. +5. There you go. Already there, I would have made the Refine S-. The problem with just the +4 is that it lacks a bit of punch. Yes, it saves a few slots, but at the end of the day, you'll be running drives to make up for the fact that you don't give enough stats. So instead of doing an all-fast job, do a full good job. That's basically what it is, yeah? At the end of the day, what I would be doing if, you know, I would be designing this weapon is just to give more stats. 4 is not enough, and I would also change the base effect to an all-tome. No one, I repeat, no one runs Raven Tomes in 2018. Let alone 2019. For fuck's sake, this is a dead fucking tome. And I understand that the anti-fire sweep / dazzling / wind sweep, water sweep skills are coming. But those are still going to most likely take your B slot. In other words, you have this TA and on top of this fucking anti-no counter-attack skills. You are joking. You're making a skill have to use a chimera of a skill set that they need 3 skills to deal with one fucking thing they are meant to deal with in the fucking to begin with. What? And the worst part about this is they can just run Cancel Affinity. Though I believe mages can't, and even if they can, they can't run Wrath. But, oh my god. This is stupid. Raven tomes are not good. They're not. Why do you think no one uses Leon? Because it's a fucking Raven tome. Why do you think in my video I made about refinery theory crafting, when I went to Leon, I said Altome as the base set effect? No one uses Raven tomes. Everyone uses Altome on Robin. It's not rocket science. Everyone uses Altomes. Because it's the best way to use every stat, since every stats are good on Robin. This does not help the character. Fuck. Anyway, so she's a good buffer, but Titania beats her in that regard. That said, while Titania is a straight upgrade to her as a buffer, one thing you can do with her that Titania can't is run green dual infantry. This allows her to work as a buffer that actually scores well in arena. As a result, she can work as a pretty competent buffer while not making your team go down in score, so that's good. Outside of that, I'm sorry, there is no point. There's just no point. Let's move on to male Robin, who is basically more or less the same. As a matter of fact, he's quite literally the same. The fact that you can use Ivy just highlights the fact that you should not be running this character, period. With this tome, you should be running him with Altome. Oh, yes. Seriously, like, I get the idea of tactic call bolt having tactics built in. Makes sense. But go with Tactics 2.5, not 2, please. This is stupid. And again, colorless advantage? Really? This means fuck all in this meta. Do you really think people are going to be like, ah yes, this is fine, I'll have to kill an exclusive B skill to have it to be able to use this fucking piece of shit pref? Great. No, no one thinks that. Alright. Let's talk about the unfortunate case here. Palla. Oh boy, Palla. So, they decided in their grand brilliance that base weapons are totally worth it in all cases yet again. So instead of giving literally anything that Palla would like, they decided to give Ruby Sword. Look. My Palla has 4 5-star weapons. She has Brave Sword, she has Wadao, she has Slaying Edge, and she has Armor Smasher. None of these are Ruby Sword. Do you know why? Because Ruby Swords suck ass. All they had to do was to copy-paste Catria's lance as a sword. There you go. Boom. Immediately better idea. Like, this is common sense. And I keep hearing one argument everyone seems to believe is the right thing to say. And it's, actually, streamer, Sorter is a new green unit, and this is a straight counter to it. Therefore, this is a good weapon. Alright. brain damage aside, this is a bad idea. You know why? If I really, really, really am afraid of one particular unit, there's those weird skills called breaker skills. They are used in very specific situations to win specific matchups. If this shit was a silver sword with, and then you ran Axe Breaker, this would be literally an upgrade to whatever this garbage is. Because you'd still kill Surtur, and on top of that you'd be able to deal with certain grains. Not green, blues, my bad. Now, this is not a lost case yet, however, there is one way to actually make this weapon work, and it's to run Cancel Affinity as a B skill. This completely nullifies the weapon's base effect. The way Cancel Affinity works to keep it consistent and easy, if you're not dealing with TA, all it means is if you have TA effect, as in if you run Triangle Adept or Gem weapons, it negates it. So if you run Cancel Affinity as her B skill, this turns it into a silver sword. Now, this costs your B skill, but it means you can at least deal with more than just greens. That's a good thing, but here's the thing that makes it only S-, is it kills your B slot potential. You cannot run Desperation with this. However, if by some stroke of luck or some stroke of genius, IS realizes that Cancel Affinity could work as a seal, oh boy, this would change everything. Because if Cancel Affinity becomes a seal, Palla is jumping up a tier to S tier easily, no questions asked. Also, please don't bring me the stupid argument of Palla is 31-31, she is not strong offensively, therefore having TA is helpful to her. Look guys, base stat are not everything. My Palla could run this shit with 65 attack and 46 speed. Don't tell me this is not high enough. Okay? Moving on. So, yeah. Cancel Affinity as a seal would kind of fix more or less her problem. Because you'd be able to run Desperation, you'd be able to run Breaker skills, you'd be able to run so many more skills as a result. Because your B slot would be open. As it is, however, she is basically getting gimped, for lack of a better term, by her weapon. It's about as good, like, to put it in a Smash word, her base effect is like Crumb's recovery. It doesn't help him, it hardly ever saves him, and it gets him killed a lot. Alright. So, yeah. At the end of the day, it's not a bad weapon. It's just, it kind of needs a specific seal to come out to really shine. Now, let's talk about the two good ones. So, I'll start with the weaker of the two, Catria. Now, Catria was never a great unit to begin with. It's funny because I've been watching a few videos and some people have been like, wow, Catria was always the best of the three. And I feel like I get cancer every time I hear that. You're telling me Catria was the best of the three? What kind of drugs are you on? I want some. Jesus. Then I would be able to see Palla's stat as 40-40 as the base. No, she was actually one of the worst of the best of them. Actually, no, she was the worst of them. Why? Because S could work as a ploy unit, so you could actually ploy as a bonus for other units, which was definitely a bonus for her. 35 attack was not bad. You could actually run that with Brave Lance, and the fact that you could run Death Ploy, haha, meme, was actually still a good idea because you would be able to hit harder than Cordelia could, or Inoka as a Brave Lance unit. So yeah, that actually had some kind of purpose. Palla was a sword unit, and yes, Sita did exist, but Palla is more of a generalist and has also a better stat line, in my opinion, than Sita does. Sita is not a bad unit, mind you. The difference here, though, is that Sita has 25 attack and 36 speed, whereas Palla is in the middle in both. Palla is more like a clean slate that can be whatever the fuck you want. If you make her speed plus, good on you. Mine hits 56 attack and 46 speed, I believe, with a slaying edge. You get the idea. Palla is the type of unit that does not look good on paper until you actually start adding merges on them, because everything that she gets a stat up in is a good stat. My Palla hits 38 def and 37 res. This is what makes her good, because she has good mixed bulk, so she can actually deal with both Grima and other greens, something that Catria has no niche over. Let me just remind you, Shigure versus Catria is a fucking slaughterfest in terms of stats. Shigure has 1 more health, Shigure has 2 more attack, Shigure has 3 more speed, same res, at the cost of 2 def. That's the difference we're talking here. No difference whatsoever, essentially. So there was no reason to build a Catria back then. Now this is different. Catria is a lot better off because she actually has a weapon helping her out. Having +3 in all stats to begin with 2 flyers next to you, okay, that means you basically have better offense than Shigure by 1 attack. And 5 more def, and 3 more res on top of it. You're straight better outside of HP. So already there, that's a really good effect. Cooldown -1 is probably one of the most sought after effect. Honestly, if cooldown -1 was Palla's base fucking effect, you could have actually run her with Gale Force shenanigans with Heavy Blade. And please don't tell me 31 attack is too low, because motherfucker, just realize one thing. You have to be next to 2 flyers that are in 2 space radius next to you to use this effect. That's 2 gold flyer on top of 3 to all stats. You get 11 attack and 11 speed. You are basically sitting at 58 attack. At base. Without an A slot. Without merges. Without IVs. Without seals. Your attack is fine. Heavy Blade works. The problem is she's kind of blue and most of the unit you'll be dealing with are green. That is a problem, yes. But it is what it is. As is, it's still pretty good. You can run her with Gale Force pretty consistently, and it can be her own thing. Gale Force will be definitely more consistent on her than any of the other sister, because the other ones would require them to get hit or be in desperation. Which, remind you, she can quad on desperation as well. That's also an idea you can run. Though it's a bit more dangerous, and if you're dealing with Wary Fighter, that could get ugly. Just thought I'd point that out, however. But, yeah. So, let's move on to the strongest of the 3, which is kind of sad considering this... I don't like S nor Catria. I actually really like Palla, and she's the one that got shafted. Yay. Thanks, IS. Thanks. Really needed that with the obvious disappointment that was 3.0, but alright. Effective against armor, brave effect, and 3 to all stats. Are you fucking shitting me? This is quite literally broken. Also, Catria is basically prefaced my Finn effect, except Finn is a bit less restrictive in my opinion, but that's just me. Do understand that if you're going to be using them outside of Flyer Emblem team, all 3 sisters are not worth refining. Why? Because you need to have Flyer unit for both the buff and the brave effect. If you don't have either of them, it means fuck all. At that point, just refine to speed. or I guess res maybe for Est. Though that depends. If you go speed plus on S, she actually hits decent amount of speed. So why do I say that S is actually utterly broken? It's quite simple. The meta is armored unit. It has been the same for the past over a year at this point. It's the same stale ass meta. So of course, if you have an effective against armor weapons, you're already fantastic. You're off to a great start, and yeah, well, that's kind of just how it is. So, okay. How good is that weapon, however? Well, let's put it this way. If you have 2 goads, that's 11 attack. Plus 16 attack from the weapon itself. You had 62 attack. Attack plus that 65 attack. Yeah, that's already getting ridiculous. If you have rally attack speed plus, that's 71 attack. Or rally attack up plus, that's also an option. Yeah, 71 attack with a brave effect is kind of ridiculous, isn't it? It's not enough to kill Surtur by any stretch, but it's definitely up there. And if you can actually quad the motherfucker, boy. Your 71 attack goes down to 57, by the way. Up to 85 against Surtur. Yeah, you might actually kill him sometimes. It comes down to how much merges, what are the IVs, and so on. Considering Death Plus is a super boon, though, I wouldn't exactly count on it. Like, please don't. But it's definitely something worth considering, because she can actually murder this guy. Which is fucking stupid. The fact that you can actually see Surtur and do 56 damage to him if he is, at 57 defense is beyond me. It makes no sense. But it is what it is. Est is just broken. If you're dealing with Zelgus, he's dead meat. Alwyn Mur basically does almost nothing to her. Especially if you add merges on top of that. No. Forget it. They do nothing. As for the blue units, they also die on the first 2 hits usually. It really comes down to the greens being the only one that are kind of scary, but that's kind of normal considering it's green and you're blue, and green is the most dangerous color of the armor. You know, colors. But yeah, so what do I think about this update? Or this refine, I would say. How can I say this? It feels like they're afraid to innovate. The one innovation out of this was the triangle attack, which they kind of just slapped on 3 characters and did not even think about the base effect, just apply the base effect of the weapons. And then they did the same for both Robins as well, which, again, that's a mistake. Honestly, if there's anything I could tell to IS is... Don't. Do not base your weapons on the base weapons. Ogma is a great example on how you should handle things. Ogma is 35-34. Having a brave weapon is horrible. Why? Because you don't make use of his speed. You kill his speed. You make it useless. And that's a problem. Because at the end of the day, you gain nothing out of it. Also, if you want to know my opinion on IVs, it's quite simple. Just go speed plus or attack plus HP minus est. Attack plus speed plus res minus on Catria. Speed plus res minus on Palla. Or actually no, speed plus HP minus if possible. Unless you really think of doing Panic Ploy, but that would require you to run a legendary unit. As for Ogma, speed plus res minus is obviously ideal. Navarre and Robin both don't have IVs. And Robin, the male one, is very it really depends on what build you're running. If you're going to run no follow-up, obviously Speed Plus is the ideal boon to go to. But yeah, Ogma is the right example of what they should be doing. Palla and Robin's, no. Like, it works for Est in Catria 100%. Because because effective against armored foes is always going to be relevant because they are the kings of BST. Catria, cooldown -1, you never can go wrong with this. Seriously. Even, like, just... If you don't want to have the second opinion of someone that actually know what they're doing and actually plays the game, just go with this as the rule of the thumb. You can't go wrong with cooldown -1. It's basic as fuck, but it helps everyone. Doesn't matter which unit gets it, it's useful on them. That's just what it is. Because, okay, let's just put it this way. Cooldown -1 on literally anyone. If you can run Heavy Blade or a Flashing Blade, that means you can attack and then proc with basically a lot of really good skills. And that helps a lot down the line. Okay, that's a good option. You can run Gale for shenanigans, you can run Draconic Aura, Bonfire, Iceberg shenanigans. There's so many options you have here. So, yeah, again, cooldown -1, you can't go wrong with that. Ruby weapon is not a bad idea, okay? I keep hearing people saying that Palla got Titania'd, but that's a mistake. Titania did not get a bad refine. Let me put it this way, okay? Titania is designed to be a support unit. She is designed not to go into battle. She is designed to be buffing her allies. That is fine. This is a different role and it works out perfectly, okay? I like that because it actually gives a bit of freedom for the characters. Okay, no problem. What I'm not okay with, however, is when you go out of your way to remove freedom on a character. But that's just me. It's just... God damn. I just hope they will realize at this point that if you're talking about refine, just don't be afraid to go for something else. Think about what people are using and base it on this. Tobin, like, to put it into perspective, Leon, okay, well, I based his weapon on an Alto. Why? Because that's what people use on him. And then I tried to use a second effect that combos into said Alto. Okay. You can do the same. Titania is a support unit, so TA is not a bad effect. It actually allows her to hard counter blue unit while providing buffs to her team. Whereas on the other hand, you have Palla, who gets a TA effect with a refine that's meant to make her an attacker. Now the problem with an attacker with TA is that, well, how do I put it? Just think of it this way. What if you gave TA to Reinhardt? How many matchup do you gain from this? Let's put it this way. You gain a new matchup and that would be Julius. Okay? Great. That's great. You managed to gain one more matchup. How many more matchup do you lose against green unit now? Yeah. Yeah. This is the same concept here. Palla is meant to be a wall breaker that hits like over 60 plus attack, but can't use that 60 attack against blue unit. If you'd be fighting a blue unit with 60 attack, which becomes 48 attack, or actually 65 attack, I'm going by memory of the stats I had on her at the end of the day. 65 attack becomes 52 attack. You're dealing with a unit with, 30 def, that's still fucking 22 times 2. If you run something like Heavy Blade on top of this, with Moon Bow, you hit and proc Moon Bow immediately. Okay, that's an extra 9 damage. You're doing 51 damage to a blue unit with 30 def! On a unit that can run ploys! On top of that! On a unit that can abuse goads! Why? TA fucks her up! And the certain matchup, yes, it's true, you will be failing to get the matchup if you run Cancel Affinity. But that's one matchup. At the end of the day, if you are really afraid of it, if it wasn't for the fact that TA is equipped on it, you could just run Axebreaker. There you go. That's all you need. But I suppose that's it. Enough ranting about this. Let's just hope Highest realizes their mistake here, because that's 7 refine, and I was very afraid to see where that would go. And I was right. 3 out of 7 of those are not good. Or rather, 2 of them are truly horrible. One of them is salvageable if Cancel Affinity becomes a seal. And the other 4 are good. The other 4 are refined that actually works with their playstyle and doesn't work against their playstyle. So, yeah. Here's hoping IS realizes what not to do next time. As usual, I'll see you later, and I'll see you in the comments. Have a nice one, everyone.